Hello, welcome to the PolyEngine. In the previous video, I've been introducing you the editor and the environment. In this video, I'm going to show you some basics of creating your own logic and the essentials of the visual programming in PolyEngine. PolyEngine offers you two forms of creating logic, in visual form and in the source form. Now I'm going to talk about the visual form. I will try to explain every aspect of it. For those who have never seen the code, it might be a little harsh, but if you're really willing to learn the code and overall algorithm, you will used to it by the time. You just need to practice. But please keep in mind, this is not a video about basics of programming itself. Let's create a new blank project and open PolyScripting window. The PolyScripting is divided into three parts. The upper panel, which allows you to create node elements, the right panel, which contains the current PolyScripting form and the console output, and the bottom panel with pin icon and essential buttons. PolyScripting executes its scripts linearly in order from A to B, so our default script will be always on the top. You are able to write the code in multiple scripts to make your project much more clear and multifunctional. To create a new script, just press the little plus button, name your script and press enter. Now we have two scripts available. To remove the script, press the little minus button, but for now we will keep it. In the window menu, you can find the execution order panel, which tells us what script will be executed first and which one will be the last. As you can see, our last created script is not even included in the execution, so let's tick this on and there you go. Our script is already there. You can also change the execution order by dragging the selected script and moving it up and down, depending on where you would like to place it. Okay, now we can start coding. Let's start with the events. Every code has to be somehow executed. The PolyScripting allows you to use the built-in functions called start and update. The start executes the code just once, right away after the start, and update executes the code every frame. Let's create some variables that will hold some values. I will create two variables of integer data type and string data type. The integer data type holds just natural numbers and string data type holds characteristic values. Let's give a name and value of your variables that we will use in our code. I will create my name and my age. All variables after the execution will be declared first, so they don't need any ordering system. Now let's make an output function so we can see what our variables hold. Go to the statements and select the console output. As you can see, the console output has a little number in the corner that holds the order number. That means the element will be very first at the execution, of course after the variable's declaration. Now, if we press compile button, you can see the console output. You can write anything you want, or you can mention the variable in the output. Very important and useful feature is the little white panel in the bottom of every panel. Just press the white panel of one of the variables, move the cursor and press the console output text field. The little panel with a few options popped out and we can mention the variable. We can mention just a variable value or other attributes like length is num, converters to float or to int, get the absolute number and so on. As you can see, the variable is already in the console. Make a space between default text and variable and hit compile. The console wrote our text and the variable value. Let's make a very simple addition function. Let's put the string variable to the bin and create one more integer variable. Remove the console as well and create an operator. Operator offers you all basic mathematical operations that we know. We've got two inputs that will be proceed by the operation we will choose. Let's keep the addition and assign our two input variables into the required fields. create the console output, mention the first input variable, and let's see what's the result. As expected, the result is correct. Now, let's make something more practical that will a regular user really see. For instance, let's make a square. Clear the default script by pressing the minus button. Go to the Statements, Generic and Create Object. This panel contains many attributes of the object, but each one is pretty described. We can choose the object type, object name, location X and Y, width and height, and object color, even in RGB spectrum. Now, when we hit compile, we can see the white square. That's the object we have created. But let's make something more interactive. We are going to create an object variable that will hold our object value. Notice that the variable value must have the same name as the generic object name. But before declaration of the object variable, we have to create an object first. So let's create our own function called createObj. When the object is created, the function will be called and our variable will be declared. Now we have an object variable that we can use for any purpose. Let's set the location of our created object. If you press 2 times left mouse button on any text field, the small panel pops out and you can choose between 2 important categories: flexible extended statements and flexible statements. These categories allows you to add special values that engine features with. For now, we'll make our object following the cursor location. So we will choose the flexible statements, cursor X and cursor Y. If you would like to know more about these categories, please visit the official documentation. If you press compile, you can see our object is following the cursor as expected, but it's a little bit laggy. Let's add a tick function that sets the frame rate speed. Change the value to 10 and compile again. That's much better. And what about condition? Let's make some bounds. Create a condition, join the condition to the update function, and set the set location to the condition true panel. Let's say we want to move the object only if the cursor X value is greater than 200. Press compile and we can see the object is following our cursor only if the cursor X value is greater than 200. Now let's connect the engine editor with the scripting editor. We are going to create a simple text form. When our scene is ready, we can go to the empty PolyScript editor and let's create our object variables with the identical names. Create a function that has the same name as we put into the on-click field of our button. This function will be called right after the button is pressed. And now let's add some conditions to check if our text fields are not empty and if they have a sufficient amount of characters. This literally means that when the save function is called, the program will create a variable that will hold the object text value. Here comes the condition that checks if the variable is empty, and it's true. The console will write it's empty. Otherwise, the program will continue in another condition that checks if the variable value length is greater than 4. And if this is okay as well, we can finalize our code. Let's save the text into file. So if all conditions passed, we will create a new text file that will be located in our application startup path. Go to the Statements, System, Streaming and File Create. Anyway, if you would like to move all blocks, use WASD. It helps a lot to make a better view over the code. Let's fill the required fields in the File Create. Double press the mouse on the path field to put our application startup path. This helps us to generate the path where our application starts. Put the file name and extension. Now let's add some content into the file. Create a file override node. Fill the fields and let's mention the variable in the content just by dragging the white grade panel and dropping it onto the field. Now let's see. I'm going to fill some information into the form. And if I write less than 4 characters, or if the field is empty, I can just save my text and the console outputs the information. Okay, I wrote something and now let's hit save and check the file in our location. It seems okay, as expected. I think this is all for the visual programming. I have tried my best to explain as much as possible basics of PolyEngine visual scripting. In the next video, we'll go deeper into programming in PolyEngine and I will introduce you the source programming. Thank you for watching and bye!